snow had fallen heavily through the night, blanketing the small town in a deep, unbroken white. The streets were almost silent except for the occasional crunch of tires or the muffled steps of a hurried pedestrian. The morning light reflected off the snow so brightly that it cast a pale glow into every shopfront, softening the world as though someone had laid a thin veil over reality. Inside a little diner on the corner of Maple Street, warmth was a tangible thing. The air smelled faintly of coffee, buttered toast, and the sweet caramel swirl of freshly baked pies. The windows fogged slightly near the edges, a contrast to the frost clinging to the outside glass. In here, people were safe from the biting cold that clawed at the skin the moment you stepped outside. Clara Williams wiped down the counter with her usual gentle rhythm. She was the sort of woman who carried warmth not just in her hands but in her eyes and her voice. She had worked at the Cozy Spoon for 6 years, and in that time had become more than a waitress. She was the unofficial heart of the place. Regulars often came in not just for the food but for the comfort of her smile and the way she seemed to make every person feel they belonged. It was mid-morning, that quiet lull between the breakfast rush and the lunch crowd. Clara was humming softly to herself when she heard the jingle of the doorbell. She looked up, expecting another regular, perhaps old Mr. Turner who came for his daily blueberry muffin. But instead, she saw 2 children. The boy looked no older than 8 or 9, his face pale and framed by hair the color of wheat straw. His clothes were worn thin, the knees of his trousers were frayed, and his oversized coat was patched in more than one place. Clinging to his back was a little girl, maybe 4 years old, her small arms looped tightly around his shoulders. Her cheeks were flushed from the cold, and her eyes, dark and watchful, peered over his shoulder. They didn't speak at first. They just stood in the doorway, the frigid air curling around them and into the warmth of the diner. Clara's heart sank at the sight. She had seen hardship before, the town had its share of struggling families, but there was something about these 2 that told her they were not just passing through a bad day. This was their life. The boy stepped forward, the door swinging shut behind him. The girl on his back tightened her grip, perhaps nervous about being somewhere unfamiliar. "Can I help you, love?" Clara asked, her voice soft. The boy's gaze shifted to the counter, then to the steaming coffee pot beside her. But when he spoke, his voice was quiet, almost rehearsed. Do you have something warm?" "For my sister." Something warm. Not for himself, but for her. Clara felt something deep in her chest twist. She didn't ask for money, she didn't ask where their parents were. She simply reached for a paper cup and filled it with the diner's thickest, richest hot chocolate, the kind topped with a dollop of whipped cream that melted into the drink like clouds into the sky. As she placed the cup on the counter, the steam rose between them in soft curls. She pushed it gently toward him. "Here you go, love. Careful, it's hot." The boy hesitated, glancing at her hands as though expecting her to ask for something in return. But when she didn't, he stepped forward and took it carefully. His sister peeked over his shoulder at the cup, her lips parting in anticipation. "Thank you," he said, his voice so low it was almost a whisper. The beginning of the conversation. Clara leaned on the counter, lowering herself to his level. "You 2 out in this weather on your own?" she asked gently. He shifted his weight, not meeting her eyes. We were looking for somewhere to get warm." She nodded slowly. "Well, you found the right place." The girl had begun sipping from the cup, her small hands around it as if it were the most precious thing she had ever held. A little chocolate mustache formed on her lip, and for the first time, Clara saw her smile. "You've a lovely sister," Clara said, smiling back. "What's her name?" "Maisie," the boy replied after a pause. "And you?" "Tom." "Well, Tom and Maisie," Clara said, "I think you could use a bit more than hot chocolate. How about some breakfast?" Tom's eyes widened slightly. We don't have any." Clara interrupted with a wink. "I didn't ask if you had anything. I asked if you wanted breakfast." He swallowed hard, as if unused to people offering without condition. Finally, he gave a small nod. A meal shared. Clara moved quickly, plating up 2 portions of pancakes with syrup, scrambled eggs, and a few strips of bacon. She added 2 glasses of orange juice and slid them onto a booth table near the heater. The children climbed into the booth, Maisie sitting on the inside so Tom could shield her from the window's cold. When the plates arrived, Maisie's eyes went wide, and she dug in with a hunger that broke Clara's heart. Tom, however, ate slowly, watching his sister as though making sure she got enough before he did. Clara noticed and made a quiet trip to the kitchen, returning with an extra pancake for his plate. "You're a growing lad," she said. "You'll need it." The boy's lips twitched in something that might have been a smile. He took a careful bite, and Clara saw a flicker of relief in his posture, as though for the first time in a long while, his stomach wasn't empty. Learning the truth. As the children ate, Clara busied herself behind the counter, but her eyes kept straying to them. There was something about the way Tom kept glancing toward the door, almost like he was afraid of being caught. After they had finished, she brought over a small basket of blueberry muffins for later and sat opposite them. "Where's home for you two?" she asked gently. Tom hesitated. "We used to live a few streets over. But after Mum got sick," he trailed off, glancing at Maisie, who was now nibbling a muffin. "We've been staying different places." Clara understood. It was the unspoken truth of children who had slipped through the cracks. No parents, no home. And likely no one looking for them. She took a deep breath. "And today? Where will you go?" Tom shrugged, his eyes lowering. "Somewhere warm, maybe. Until it's dark." Her throat tightened. Outside, the snow still fell, heavier now, and the wind had picked up. The idea of these two out there in it was unbearable. An act of decision. Clara stood. "Wait here." She stepped into the kitchen, found the diner owner, and explained the situation. Mr. Bennett was a gruff man in his 60s, but he had a soft spot for children. He didn't hesitate. "Let them stay here as long as they need," he said. "We'll figure something out." When Clara returned, she told the children they could stay for the rest of the day, maybe even help out if they wanted. Tom's eyes lit up, a mix of relief and disbelief. "You mean, we can stay inside?" he asked. "Inside, in the warm," Clara said, smiling. "No strings attached. A day in the warmth." The hours that followed were unlike any the children had experienced in weeks. Maisie sat on a stool near the counter, drawing on napkins with the crayons Clara kept for young diners. Tom helped wipe tables, his small hands eager to contribute. Customers came and went, some glancing curiously at the two new faces. Clara, without telling the full story, simply introduced them as friends helping out today. As the afternoon sun dipped, the snow outside showed no sign of stopping. Clara knew she couldn't just send them back into that going beyond. That evening, when the diner closed, Clara made another decision. She called a friend who worked with the local council's outreach program. Within an hour, arrangements were being made for the children to have a safe place to sleep, warm beds, and hot meals. Tom resisted at first, his protective instincts over Maisie making him wary of strangers. But when Clara knelt beside him and promised she would check on them tomorrow, he finally agreed. Before they left, Maisie handed Clara a crumpled napkin. On it was a child's drawing, 3 figures holding hands in front of a building, with a big yellow sun overhead. "That's you," Maisie said softly, pointing to the smiling figure with curly hair. Clara felt tears sting her eyes. She hugged them both tightly before watching them step into the care workers' van, safe from the snow. The steam that stays. The next morning, the diner felt a little emptier without them. But Clara knew they were warm, fed, and safe, and that was enough. Sometimes, kindness didn't need grand gestures. Sometimes it was as simple as a hot drink on a cold day, a smile that said you matter, and the decision to see someone not as a problem but as a person. And for Tom and Maisie, that cup of hot chocolate was more than a drink, it was the first small steam of hope that told them the world still had warmth to give.